What is going on, guys? Jack here, and welcome to episode 57 of the Charge to the Top here with Hereford FC, and today we kick off Season 7 in the Championship. I am so excited to get into this. I thought we'd start on this screen here just to savour the back-to-back promotions. Of course, I can't take credit for that first promotion. That was before my time. But since then, 6 seasons, 6 promotions. Last year, I mean, I still can't believe how we actually got promoted in the end. It was a little bit of, I guess, a miracle in terms of how our end of season went. But obviously we had to kick on. We had to continue to improve the side. And the Sky Bet Championship, definitely now where things start to get serious. I feel like as a manager, doing a lower league save like this one, you can kind of just use young players and use free transfers to build your way up the first few leagues. But when you hit the Championship, you start to actually have to start kind of spending the cash, I guess. Start bringing in real quality. I don't think we're going to get promoted this year. I was actually, if I just show you here, looking at our squad comparison compared to everyone else in the league. If we look at it, I mean, we're not bottom for everything, but we are below average in terms of pretty much every attribute. I think we do have the best finishing in the league, so maybe we can just outscore everyone again. Maybe that's just what we'll have to rely on this year. Obviously, it's a big move coming up to the Championship. Lots of money on offer. Our current balance is £700,000. We have, however, as you can see here, still got £2 million in the transfer budget and a decent chunk of our wage budget remaining. I managed to convince the board to up the wage budget from what they initially set me, which was great. And through doing a little bit of transfer business, I feel like we've got our squad up to scratch. We're not going to get promoted this year. I'm going to go out there and say it now. It would be an absolute miracle if we were to. But I do think this year at least we can start to settle in the Championship. I feel like the Championship, as I said, it's a tough league to get out of. We look at some of the teams in it. One team that was relegated last year, Nottingham Forest, they're owned by a tycoon, or at least they were last time I checked. And if we just look at them here, yeah, their squad's ridiculous. You kind of look at the wages their players are on, like, it's going to be tricky, you know, to kind of match up against this kind of quality because we don't have it. This is a team who should walk the league this year. And when you compare some of their players to ours, of course, there isn't much of a comparison. But anyway, there are some transfers dealings that I have done. I will start off by saying I have kind of delved into the US leagues. I didn't actually have the USA added at the start of my kind of series. I decided to add it in the last summer, thinking that if we were still in League One, it might still be useful to us. Obviously, we did get promoted, but it does mean that there are a few more young players available. So I've kind of quickly snapped them all up. Of course, if you watch the Gibraltar save, you'll know the deal when it kind of comes to trying to get in young American players and develop them. Going to be trying to do that here. I think it's going to be a good source of income for us, particularly in the Championship. Anyway, looking at our transfer dealings, we'll start with the outs. First player out, Wade Ryan, left for Galatasaray, £1.5 million. I'm pretty happy with that fee for the 20-year-old. Maybe would have expected a little bit more, but it became more and more apparent we weren't going to get a lot more than that for him. Decided that it was worth the fee for a player without a work permit, so some nice money there. Another player who left us, Francesco Baldini. He's gone to FC Cincinnati. Bit of a bizarre one, this one. I wasn't that keen on this guy, if I'm honest. We picked him up, as you can see here, for £3,000. The board just kind of automatically accepted without consulting me a deal of £55,000 a week. It's a little bit lower than I would have expected, but we'll deal with it. Another player who's gone out on loan is this guy, Guy Akusu. Of course, a young Ivorian who we signed from ASEC, our good old friends. Unfortunately, didn't get a work permit. But going to Libertad here, they are a Paraguayan team. They've got Ramirez in their side, so that gives you an idea of their quality. If we just look at their facilities, not their affiliated clubs, you can see they've got excellent training facilities, great youth facilities. It's going to be a great place for him to develop and hopefully play some regular first team football. Obviously, Guy here, he hasn't got a work permit at the moment, and if he was just to sit in our reserves, not getting first team football, not only is it going to hinder his development, I do think it would hinder his kind of likelihood, I guess, of being called up for the Ivory Coast national team. So a good move for the 18-year-old, a good move for both clubs, I guess. Another player who sadly left us, Basala Sambu, the striker, just not quite the player he once was. Of course, joined us back when we were in League 2. Last year, just got 2 goals in 14 games. Was very underwhelming indeed. So I let him go. And a few other players going out on loan. Liam Fox, a big player of note. I think this guy could turn into a very good player. Going to be getting regular first team football at Hartlepool in the Vanarama National League, which is nice. Another player who's gone out on loan, this guy, Daniel Schneider. We'll talk a little bit about him on the ins, but he is a player we've brought in, 19 years old, German player. He was just flagged up by one of my scouts. I decided to pick him up. The scouting range range, of course, that we have is anywhere in Europe. One of my scouts in Germany was like, hey, check out this guy, he's available on a free. We've snapped him up, 19 years old, not got a work permit, but he's going to Serie B, as you can see here, as a key player. So I think that's going to be good for regular first-team football for him. Anyway, a few players who left permanently, none of massive note if I'm being completely honest. A few names you may recognise, but for the most part, just a lot of young prospects who just didn't really develop for us, unfortunately. Anyway, looking at the ins, the first player we picked up is this guy, Andy Mcdonald. Joins us from Liverpool, was released at the end of his contract, looked like he had some good mentals, good physicals and kind of good technicals. So I decided to pick him up. I think he can be a very, very useful player for us. The next player we brought in, the first real player of championship quality, I guess you could say, Jay Beckford. We signed him, as you can see, for just £120,000. Last year had an okay season at Walsall. Prior to that, you can see he was at Arsenal for a very long time. Got some absolutely fantastic pace. I think that's going to serve us well if we do need to start hitting teams on the counter-attack. 20 determination I always like as well. Can also play up top. Going to be playing him mostly out on the right wing, but the fact he can play on the left I guess is useful as well. We've already talked about Akusu. He did join us for £400,000. Andy Campbell, one of the few players from America who is actually joining us this summer. I mentioned the fact, I've added America. I've gone and tried to sign a few of their youngsters. A lot of those players not able to move, of course, until they're 18 years old, and a few of them 16 and 17. So we will slowly kind of see those guys trickle in kind of over the next few years, I guess you could say. And Andy Campbell, the first of those. Anyway, the next guy we have, Chucks Ongunsanya. I'm going to call this guy Chucky, I think. But we've picked him up, 23 years old. Bargain as far as I'm concerned, a free transfer, and he is Nigeria's first choice goalkeeper at international level, which meant he could get a work permit really easily because they're quite high in the league ratings. Really like the look of this guy, 23 years old, playing close to his potential, but I think he can be a very key player for us. You can see he was at the World Cup. And he will be our first choice goalkeeper this year. So a good little signing there as far as I'm concerned. We've already talked about Daniel Schneider, the player who's gone on loan to Serie B. So the next player we've got in is Anthony Ford here. An Irish player, 28 years old. Not actually been capped kind of at senior level, but has played a handful of games at the under-21s level for Ireland. Like this guy a lot. Can play on the right and left wing, which is nice. May even train him to play kind of the centre attacking mid-role as well. But all in all, just a very, very nice player. Coming in on low wages. If we look at his report, you can see a decent player for most championship sides. Got good free kicks as well. And a really good little free transfer. The next player we signed, a familiar face. Liam Evans returns on loan. Of course, I did mention last season I tried to loan him in January. Didn't work out for us, but he's decided this year he is interested in a loan, and he's going to be a very, very good player, I think, at this level for us. A good player on off the bench. In truth, he hasn't actually improved a whole lot since he left us for Watford in January, but I'm hoping he can play well for us. You can see he did play actually 8 times for Watford. He did fail to score, but Watford getting promoted to the Premier League last season, they're not going to find a spot for him in their side, so a good loan deal, I think, for everyone involved there. Anyway, at left back, unfortunately for us, Chris Owens, for the first time in 4 years, will be surrendering his kind of starting spot at the left back position in favour of Sean Cavanaugh here. 28 years old. Very good player, very good kind of fullback on the support duty. You can see his kind of attributes really, really well suited to this. Good fitness, kind of good, I guess, physicals as a whole, really. It's a shame his strength isn't a little bit better, but at 28 years old, coming in on a free transfer, really can't complain too much at all. Harry Buteman, the next player we picked up from Northampton, very good centre midfielder, 30 years old, lots of experience. Never actually proven himself at this level, so this is going to be a step up for him, but you can see he's never really settled down. He's been at Northampton for a number of years, and he joins us now. And he looks like a very good player at 30 years old. He looks like he's going to be a very good kind of centre midfielder. You can see decent player, obviously, for championship sides. Not necessarily the greatest player in the air, but a good professional kind of personality and really adds some quality into our side. And that's something that's been really important this year, adding affordable quality. I don't want to go too crazy with our wages. In fact, I think Chucky is our highest earning player on £6,000 a week, to kind of put it into perspective. But anyway, the next player we've got here, Danny Mayer, a good little backup player, can play on either wing. Really like the look of this guy, 31 years old, and just a good solid backup player who, as we can see here, bit of a Sky Bet League 1 quality player, but good professional personality, really is going to fit into the squad. Perhaps the player I'm most excited about signing is this guy, Ryan Ledson, a player who for a long time was hyped up as being a kind of massive, massive prospect for Everton. You can see he's gone to Oxford and proven himself there. He got a move to Sheffield Wednesday last year where he really wasn't given an opportunity. They actually ended up releasing him after 2 years after their promotion. You can see he played 1 game in the Premier League on off the bench. He joins us now on a free. 24 years old, some potential left to fulfill perhaps, but I really like this guy because of the 15 passing and 14 vision. One thing we've had a little bit of a gap, I guess, in our team with has been a really good deep line playmaker, a player with great passing and great vision. This guy ticks all the boxes, 24 years old. Perhaps his physicals could be a little bit better, but at the same time, technically extremely well gifted. For his age as well, his mentals are superb, and at 24 years old, he is actually coming into the club and becoming instantly our vice-captain. But yeah, definitely a great player, I think, to get in. And the last player we brought in, Rob Dickey, unfortunately not available for the first game of the season as he's suspended, but the 26-year-old, a very, very good option at the centre-back area. Definitely going to be contending with the likes of Harry Lennon and Rumsby for that role at centre-back. But yeah, great player for the future. And, just a really good addition to the side. So anyway, if you look at these, you can see we've spent £1.8 million on players. We've made £1.8 million on players. We've spent, on the other hand, £1.2 million on players. So we've made a good little bit of profit, actually, this year. Wade Ryan's departure really kind of making up for a lot of the players we've brought in. And I feel like we've bought fairly well here. If we look at our squad for this year, this is what I consider to be our best 11. I guess we're blessed in the sense that at the moment, at least, we've not got too many injuries to contend with. Kevin Kelly renewed his loan as well until the end of next season now, so this 19-year-old, a player we've got for the next 2 years, and definitely a player I feel like we can build around. A fantastic striker at this level, may even be kind of well suited to the Premier League in the not too distant future. I think he can definitely get key goals for us, which will hopefully carry us in the league this year and ensure we don't get involved in a relegation kind of dogfight. Speaking of our expectations for this year, just for people wondering, you can see if we look here, our minimum expectation is to avoid relegation. I'm hoping we can do that. In today's episode, we actually take on Colchester, who, if we look at the league table here, they are joint favourites with ourselves and a few other teams, actually, to go down. So I'm hoping we can get a result. It is going to be away from home, and it is going to be pretty tricky indeed. So anyway, let's have a look at our best 11 for the year. I'm very, very happy with the squad as a whole. Lots of improvements, although we've still got a few players that kind of feel oddly familiar. And to be honest, the squad hasn't been completely overhauled, as you may expect. Anyway, in goal we have got Chucky, the Nigerian international, 23 years old. I've already bigged this guy up enough. I think he's going to be a great player for us this year, although, worth noting, he is one of the big earners, so hopefully he is going to be earning his keep during his time at the club. At left back we do go with Sean Cavanaugh. As I mentioned already, he has ousted Owens for that left back role. If we compare the two players, they don't actually look that different. But when you look at the kind of fullback ability on support, you kind of see that Cavanaugh does indeed excel in a lot of areas where perhaps Chris Owens is lacking. Of course, Chris Owens still 23, perhaps some room to improve, and he will be good backup. If we get an injury to Sean here, the left back position I don't think is going to be a massive problem for us. Anyway, starting at centre back for today's first game of the season, we go with Harry Lennon at left centre back, holds down his spot in the side. Alongside him, Rumsby, of course, a player we got in on loan from Newcastle last year. Didn't actually play that much for us, but he's a youngster with some potential. I'm still very dubious over his jumping reach, but the rest of his attributes really make up for that. And with Rob Dickey kind of waiting in the wings, Rob Dickey could definitely step in for Rumsby if he really doesn't kind of step up to the plate this year, so I'm not too worried about this centre-back position. At right-back, making a bit of a bold move here, Gustavo Rojas, the Panama international, of course, a player who recently got granted a work permit. I talked about wanting to make this guy a fullback. This season, he is going to be a fullback for us, or at least that's my early intentions. The 21-year-old, we're training him to play right back. I'm going to play him in that position so he can hopefully get to grips with it better. You can see he's still a little bit uncomfortable with it even now, so we are going to have to be wary. I'm going to be monitoring his performances. I'm hoping, obviously, he can just kind of step up and perform. But, perhaps it's a risk, I guess, to play a player who can't play right back at right back, but it is going to help him pick up the role quicker, and that's kind of, I guess, to our benefit because he is by far our kind of best right back, although we have got the likes of Luke O'Neill as an option at right back if we do need someone there. Anyway, in the centre of midfield, we go with Beautyman in the centre mid on defend duty. Alongside him, we go with Ryan Ledson, who I've already bigged up enough, the 24-year-old, definitely the man who I'd pick out as potentially being a key player for us this year. They're definitely the player I'm most excited about as well. Out on the right, we go with Jay Beckford. He's got tremendous pace and acceleration, great determination as well. His kind of technicals, I guess, as far as a winger are concerned, are fairly solid. Perhaps his work rate and passing a little bit dubious, a point to prove perhaps. Anyway, the remaining players in our team are, of course, all players who played for us last year. On the left, we do stick with Jack Barmby. Very good player. Obviously, great to have a naturally left-footed player on the left-hand side. Anthony Ford, however, may muscle his way into this position. Despite the fact he's right-footed, if we just compare the two players here, you can see that Ford just a better player in a few different areas. And so Anthony, you may well get a nod in the first team depending on how, I guess, Jack Barmby's start to the season is. Anyway, for James Maddison, it's got to be a proud day. He's been at the club a number of years now. He really has carried us the last 2 years, contributing almost 40 goals across 86 matches. Great player. Hopefully, of course, I'm hoping he can step up for us today. I'm saying hopefully a lot because I do feel like we are going to need a little bit of hope this year. You can see the fans love him. Very determined, fairly consistent. Good player for the Championship as well. And that's the important thing actually to note with our team is it's a good team for the Championship at this point. Kevin Kelly up top. Already talked about this guy. 19 years old. Room to develop. On loan until the end of next season. I'm excited by him, put it that way. So anyway, looking at the team here, you can see we have a few players with 3-star rating, Harry Lennon included. You can see a decent player for League One sides. In terms of the players rated kind of 3.5, they, I believe, are kind of considered Championship quality players. So that kind of gives you an indication of the fact that the majority of our first team now is considered good players for this level. Of course, a few players perhaps punching above their weight. But let's hope they can step up for us. Looking at the rest of our team, obviously, we have players like O'Neill, Packwood, McGeehan, Stephen Boyd as well, Mayor Waters, Anthony Ford, Liam Evans. Options on the bench, particularly in the midfield. We've got some good strength and depth with the likes of McGeehan as an option there. Of course, you can see here, decent player for most Championship sides. Definitely a very useful player to have. And I feel like the centre of midfield is really where we can build a strong core to our side this year. And after a few years of, if I'm being completely honest, having a somewhat lacking centre of midfield, I'm hoping that this year that is going to prove to be one of our big strengths. I have got one more player who might be joining us, Tom Davies, of course a player in real life who's really made a name for himself at Everton after a handful of starts, including a very memorable performance, of course, in which he scored on his Premier League debut. But he could be a player joining us, 24 years old, very well-rounded. Again, would add another kind of very, very good centre midfielder to our team to increase our strength and depth there. There are other players I'm looking at, the likes of Theo Walcott, maybe on a trial, although with his lack of pace, I don't know how much he's actually going to offer us. But yeah, kind of gives you, I guess, an idea of where we're at. So anyway, let's get into today's game. We're taking on Colchester. It's away from home. We are considered perhaps the 2 worst teams in the division, so I'm hoping we can hit the ground running today, get a good result. This Championship kind of campaign, as far as I'm concerned, is very much going to be a case of just avoid a relegation fight. If we can finish mid-table, I'll be a happy bunny. That would be a great expectation, I guess, to reach this year. I feel like with Kevin Kelly and Liam Evans, we are going to have goals in our side, so I'm not too worried about kind of not being able to score. Defensively, I think that's where questions are going to be asked of us, but I think we've proven over the last few years we're more than capable of kind of punching above our weight. We have a very determined team at this point and a very good team of kind of professional, personalitied players, and as a result, I'm kind of really hopeful, and I'll say it again, hope is the word of this episode, but I am kind of really optimistic for the fact that this year we can just kind of settle into the Championship. That's got to be the aim. Our wages, they have gone up. We have doubled kind of the amount we are paying players a week. Obviously, the Championship itself, there is more money there. I believe we are going to actually be operating at a profit of sorts this year, and of course, with a lot of young players coming in as well as the young players already at the club, I feel like we've got the conveyor belt of players moving, and we have had that really over the last few years. I think that's a key component when we're a side like Hereford, that we do sign players, move players on, really kind of, make it money off them, and kind of, I guess that is how we kind of fund ourselves. And it's worked for us so far, obviously hoping it can continue today. And while we're on the attack, Kelly, Maddison, it had to be him, didn't it? James Maddison with the goal. Worth noting, Ryan Ledston involved in the kind of build-up. We're top of the league. We're the first team to score this year. Can I claim that? Can I claim the fact we're top of the league and we were top of the league for like a day or a minute or however long we remain there? But no, we'll take it. A great little start. As I said, I don't think goals are going to be a problem this year. I think we've proven over the last few years we're capable of moving up the leagues and continuing to score. And I think we've brought in some good creative players. I feel like with Kevin Kelly as well leading the line. He's a very good striker. He does have the weakness of being inconsistent. But, he turned provider for this goal here. But I feel like with him on the pitch, the goals aren't going to be lacking. And Liam Evans as well on the bench, a great player to be able to bring on. Of course, a player we're kind of all too familiar with at this point. But yeah, goal here, 1-0 up against Colchester. It's a good result for us. We'll take it as things stand, of course. A lot of football left to be played, but it's nice to strike first in this kind of game. And, obviously get our noses in front. That build-up, it took a long time to load this goal. It better be worth the wait. It was lovely build-up play. James Maddison surging on ahead. First time finish, squeezes it in. Perhaps the keeper could have done a little bit better. but we'll take it. We're a goal up away from home against Colchester, and we're winning in the Championship, and, well, you can't ask for much more than that, can you, as a start to the season? Our first shot on target, first goal. Look at the average ratings. Madison having a good start to the game. Defensively, we're looking fairly solid. Perhaps the centre of midfield could be up in their game a little bit after how much I've bigged them up. But, you know, for the likes of Ryan Ledston, it's going to be important that they kind of get bed into the side. It is important also to note with Ryan Ledston, he's lacking a little bit of match fitness. So it may be a case of McGeehan has to come on for him as the game progresses. But anyway, in this match so far, we're dominating possession. There's been very few chances in truth across the first 35 minutes, but in kind of some ways, I guess that suits us. Of course, Colchester, like ourselves, are a very, very kind of relatively small team in this league. And I feel like if we've learnt anything from last season, it's the fact that we seem to do well against the teams we shouldn't do well against. And then it's the likes of Burton Albion and Wickham that we can't beat. So I'm kind of optimistic. Although, I mean, it's poor defending from the set piece, isn't it? Tom McIntyre with the header. And, well, we were doing so well. And then we can see the set piece, the ball whipped in. It's flicked on, and then it's actually... Does Walker steal it? He doesn't. He doesn't make contact with it. Perhaps the player on the post, Cavanaugh, could have done a little bit better there to get the header. At the same time, though, Colchester straight back into it. Apparently, Cavanaugh and Ledston have been making a lot of mistakes. That's not what I want to hear from our new boys. Ledston on a 6.4. I've bigged him up too much. As I said, Cavanaugh definitely at fault for the goal, unfortunately, for us on a 6.1. It's not been a good debut for either of those men kind of in their first ever competitive matches, but I've got faith in them to turn it around. I'm going to tell the players at half-time I'm far from pleased with what I just saw. Cavanaugh, he's not responded that greatly. I'm just going to calmly tell him that you can still improve, and I have faith in him. He seems motivated. We'll take it, I guess. But no, this is going to be a tough game. It's going to be a hard-fought game. It's been a shame that we've not seen Chucky make a save yet, the goalkeeper, on a record amount of money, although I'm sure if you play Football Manager, you know you very, very rarely see your keepers make a save if you're playing on key highlights, because usually the goals that go against you, they always seem to come on key, and there aren't as many saves to scream and shout about. But, well, with 50 minutes gone, we've probably been the better team. You know, it's been a narrow game. Possession, not that different between the two sides. Just a set piece, unfortunately, has broken us down. Ryan Ledston still struggling in this game. I am going to make the conscious decision to take him off. I'm going to bring in McGeehan for him. As I said, this year, you know, the centre and midfield, I definitely think is the position where we are going to end up with the most strength in depth. I've got £2 million obviously left in the transfer budget, as well as over £30,000 in wages. So there is still a lot of time if I want to improve the side, if we want to try and bring in some players on frees to do so. And I don't know how that's gone in. Is that a Rumsby own goal? It is. He's scored 2 own goals in kind of, I think, the last 2 live comms he's been involved in. Maybe we should drop the youngster. I've changed Ledston out, and immediately we've conceded. The ball whipped in. Rumsby, it's just hit him on the back. The keeper should probably do a little bit better as well. It's just a bit of miscommunication. Of course, a lot of new parts for this Hereford machine. The gelling, not quite there. And, well, at the moment, it's not a great kind of performance now, is it? We're down to 18th. We were top of the league, albeit for such a short period of time. We've created a fair few chances. Jack Barmby's been a little underwhelming, so I'm going to bring in Anthony Ford. Kavanagh as well has been poor. I'm going to bring on Luke O'Neill. Perhaps a little bit bold here, you know, with 25 minutes left to make all of our subs. I feel like I'm now going to be praying to the Football Manager gods that they don't kind of smite down one of our players with either an injury or a red card that could leave us screwed, and with not a lot of options to change it, of course, now having used all our subs. But, well, 20 minutes left in this game. You'd have to say, looking at the stats, we've been the better team. An own goal and a set piece conceded, the differences. But I feel like this season, you know, it's going to be about the fine margins. It's going to be about grinding out points in this kind of game, which is going to determine whether or not we stay in this division. I'm going to give the players a team talk. Show some passion, boys. Show me something. Show me that you care. I mean, time just ticking away here. I mean, Aston Villa beating Cardiff 5-0. If that's what awaits us, I'm not looking forward to it. How's Rohaston? He's been on a 6.7. He's actually been one of our best kind of defenders. Harry Lennon struggling a little bit for fitness, but is on a 7.6. Fair play to the centre-back. But yeah, fullback's going on attack now. We have to chase this game a little bit more. There is not long left in this game. Let's just push our defensive line a lot higher. Unfortunately, it feels like this game is just getting beyond us. A game of very few chances as well. And unless there's a late goal here, which it doesn't look like there's going to be, unfortunately for us, we are going to succumb to a defeat on the opening day of the season. In a game that you'd have to say we were probably the better team in a game which perhaps lacked a little bit of quality. Harry Lennon did get man of the match. Fair play to him. Cavanaugh, not a debut to remember. Ryan Ledston, not ideal for him either. We are down in 15th. It was only the 1-goal margin defeat. To stay up this year, I'm kind of curious just to check kind of what kind of points tally we need. I'm going to check, you know, over the last few years, how many points we've needed to avoid relegation. Let's have a look at this. So if we just look at the league table, for last year you needed to get more than 41 points. The year before that you needed 47 points. 43 points the year before that, 47 points again. It's looking like we're going to have to average about a point a game. I know in the Premier League they say that you need 38 points from 38 games to be safe. So that's, I guess, what we've got to aim for here. Lots of players not happy. We have got a deal that's gone through here, which is one that I'm not sure if I'm going to confirm or not. It's this guy, Kyle McFarlane of Tranmere. I need another striker. If we just look at the squad here, you can see we've got pretty good strength and depth everywhere. I'm a little bit concerned that 1 or 2 injuries to strikers could leave us a little bit short when it comes to firepower. So I'm trying to overcome that. I'm just not sure if this guy is the answer. He's a good kind of advanced forward, which is kind of what we want. But you can see he's considered, at least by my scouts, only to be a good League 2 player. And we are paying a little bit more than perhaps what I'd like to for a player who I do have some reservations over. I'm going to delay that transfer. We've got more players I'm potentially looking to bring in. But well, hopefully we can add 1 or 2 of them, I guess, to the team to improve. In terms of our games coming up, we've got Wigan to play, then it's followed by tricky games against the likes of Stoke, Reading, Brentford and Huddersfield. In terms of one we'll be back, I think the Sheffield United game will be a good one. I believe that they are another team like us who are kind of tipped perhaps to be struggling this year, so they make sense to do as kind of our next game. Hopefully, of course, I will see you guys for that match. As always today, if you have enjoyed, please do leave a like. If you've got any comments, leave them down below. And other than that, it is me, Jack, and I will talk to you guys in a bit. I'm out.